Hi, welcome to the BIPP podcast. And here we are, two individuals from the public policy class, and we are sitting here to discuss about the skilling and entrepreneurship landscape. So, hi Saubhagya.
Hi, Shipra.
Hi, why don't you start with
Okay.
telling your background?
I'm Saubhagya Samal, having around 22 years of experience. From that, initially 10 years in corporate. And then later on, I shifted to skill development, stayed with skill development since last 10 plus years in both operations or implementation and then consulting side. What made me stay in the skilling development area, skill development and entrepreneurship area is that you create larger impact on the society, and second is you get a satisfaction of what you are doing into. So
Correct.
because you are dealing with the youth and you are trying to create impact directly in individual lives, which is something which is appealing to me, and that's why I'm here.
Nice. So I think I also share that kind of passion to enter the industry. I started with IIT Delhi. I graduated from there as a civil engineer. Post that, I worked for a while in civil engineering and then for the internal satisfaction. And I realized that there is more value creation in actually the impact space. And vocational education and entrepreneurship, I felt, is something that, it's like teaching fishing and giving fish to the people. So this is more like a sustainable impact that it creates. So this is how I moved to the space, and it's been a while we are here. And I think that passion is something that which is common and which actually drives the sector.
Yes. It was a new concept when we started getting into skilling per se. 2007 or 2005 kind of time when we started working on it. First skill development policy which came in, it was in 2009. And the development happened over a period of time. And then from 2015, we got into another, that development of new policy came in. And we got a ministry also in 2015. Okay. So from there, it started taking up the pace. But somewhere we are still missing certain very important links,
Correct.
because any policy, if it has to be implemented on the ground, there are challenges which we need to see from from the ground perspective.
Correct. And I think to mention the past years of the growth of the sector in that sense that you've mentioned, I would want to mention that it still is, the basic problems still exist. Why we are skilling our people is to create employment and is to create that employability within them.
Yes.
But to talk of the government schemes like we have PMKVY, which is in its fourth iteration now, Skill India Mission, etc. All these schemes now even they have realized, but till the time they were more input oriented, ki just go and train the people, not worrying about whether they will land up in jobs. But now at least the focus is shifting, and I think that is the need of the hour for a while now.
Yeah.
But even having said that, the situation is still troublesome. It is only 30% of the people who enroll themselves for these schemes are actually placed. And to quote that number, this is even a proxy number because it is a disguised kind of employment. Whatever they're trained for, they're not landing up in the field of that kind of jobs. So I think the focus of the entire sector has to move to employability. They have to realize that they don't have to skill people just for the sake of skilling. And like we were discussing just now, that all our trainings are also very theoretical in that sense. So the pedagogy, the curriculum, the teachers, the trainers, they also have to be, more industry aligned, and all the trades that we choose have to follow the market economy of demand and supply. We cannot teach them bangle making for that matter. Who buys bangles
Yeah,
now?
currently, if you look at Shipra, we are mostly on a supply side. Like we are supply driven.
Correct.
And that is where the problem lies.
Exactly.
Because what we see, the kind of facilities we are creating on the ground for training, we just focus on that without looking at what industry requires. One, that challenge is there. Second, the youth which was there in 2005 and 2022, there is a huge difference in their aspiration, the kind of information they are receiving today, whether a youth who stays in an urban pocket or a semi-urban pocket or a rural pocket, they all have access to to information today. Due to obviously, because of the advent of technology, everybody has a mobile phone and which is a smartphone, and they access information. Now with information, they are developing aspirations.
Correct.
Okay, which is not realistic. And that is where the challenge is today. I'll just cite a small example. Now suppose there are a lot of opportunities which is available in the area of welding in engineering. Production engineering, if we talk about, engineer, a welder can earn maybe around 20,000 rupees. I'm giving this very, very,
Ballpark
conservative
figure,
figure.
yeah.
Very, very conservative figure, 20,000 rupees per hour. If they go and work in a, underwater, welding activity. Okay, that's a job role, which a normal guy who is young and has that kind of bent of mind is not even aware of. So what is happening is they think that's where we will come into this practice that this is not aspirational. Somewhere we have failed to develop that aspiration within the policy itself, so that anybody, because dignity of labor is another thing. First is developing that aspiration that if they take up a particular job role, they develop a career.
Correct.
They
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
only trained for a particular
Understood.
job.
Correct. And in fact, I also wanted to come to that point that vocational education per se has been just targeted to one kind of a segment, which is an underprivileged segment. And also because the problem it faces, it's been looked down upon. It is more like people who cannot go to the academic education institutes land up in
Dropped
vocational
out, yes.
education, or people who have dropped out. So I think that kind of mentality we need to work on, because that can probably happen if we vocationalize our education, like you said. People will have to understand it from a career aspect, and that needs to be built in the policy. Because currently, though we have seen that UGC, etc., they came about with policies where multiple entry exit, learning while you are earning, and that credit continuum pathways are being talked about, but yet I don't see them in implementation. In fact, we are coming with there is a skill university that is coming up in Jharkhand, and there also the intention is to actually provide that pathway to the students. And these are actually people who were working in, let's say, construction sector or manufacturing sector for a while, and now what to do? They can just move to the supervisor level at max with the trainings that they have received. But like we had to come back to ISB to brush our skills. For even them, that kind of upskilling and career pathway is required for them. And while they face that opportunity cost of leaving their job and coming back to study, they don't have that leverage. So for them, it is required that all their working potential is converted to credits, and those credits are counted as education. So I think all this framework needs to be built in the policy. And one more thing I wanted to ask you also, that how do you see, since we've moved a bit in the sector, the gender representation is still not...
Yes, I think that's a very wonderful question, because I'll tell you why. Gender representation is clustered in certain job roles, and in certain job roles they are completely left out. I'm talking about from female perspective or women empowerment. See, there are job roles like, for example, beauty and wellness sector. There you will see maximum
Only
concentration
female,
of
yeah.
and rest of the job roles like general duty assistant is another job role which is related to healthcare. There you will see gender concentration towards female side is very high, male representation is very less. There are salons which are unisex. There are salons which are like only male dominated, male driven salons are there. So, and today a customer is not bothered about whether there is a male person who is doing the salon activity or a female.
Actually,
If you need a haircut, you need a haircut which is done in a proper way.
right. A scissor doesn't recognize whether
Yes,
it's the
yes.
male
Or
using
the
it or the
So
female.
stereotyping is also needs to be removed over a period of time. And another thing which I would like to say, that the training which the pedagogy or the way we are training our candidates is also not sufficient. See, I'll cite couple of examples. Like for example, we train a candidate for a security guard job role. Now, there are different organizations, there are a lot of opportunities available, and there is a career path which is there. But what we do is we train them in a classroom setup. because somewhere we are not able to design a course which ensures that a security person need to have certain kind of physical strength and stamina along with mental strength and stamina, and obviously behavioral aspect is one part of it that needs to be inculcated so that they become a professional security guard or a security person over a period of time. Now, we make them sit inside the class. The first job they land up, they have to stand for maybe 7-8 hours in a day and then leave the job next day. The reason behind that is that they are never being trained about the actual working conditions. Another example is, for example, retail. Now, you walk into any kind of showroom. You will not see a chair for a person who is behind the counter. Why that is not being done? Because they have to be active, they have to be catering to the different customers requirement. So they are again trained in a classroom where they are not being told about this hardship. One, they are not being trained to handle themselves in this kind of situation where they have to have that stamina of standing for 4-6 hours at a stretch. So they land up in a job, the first day they feel the pressure. Whoever has got some backup, they just immediately back out of that particular job, and then we say these people are not serious about job. It's not about their seriousness. It's how we have designed the course, and we have misguided actually in a way, not intentionally, but the design of the entire program is done in such a way that they are being misguided. So there is something which we need to also look into. So
So
that is
I
another
think
aspect.
then taking from this, going forward, what I feel is till now government has been operating in silo. The society is doing its own bit. The market has to rework again when the people come to their facility. They have to retrain them to actually make them employable
Yes.
and work in those settings. So I think it has to be a coordination between all. And when we say that each actor has to be a partner in this, the all the trainings, courses, they have to be market led. The employers can only tell what they need, and they have to be partner in the entire process, from the curation of the curriculum to the assessments and their exit to the job location where they are going, and hand holding them in the job location for a while. So I think this entire process has to be taken up by all the actors of the society, the government, because government can bring in what other actors cannot. All the resources lie with the government. Government actually can take care of the equity aspect, since we are talking about underprivileged segment more into the vocational education space. Government has a huge responsibility to cater to them, and market is definitely required for their efficiency and for making this whole process successful. So making this kind of a venture sustainable for a while also requires something. And what is that something that?
I feel what we need to do understand is that the government has a limited role in terms of which is very powerful also, that they can bring in all the stakeholders onto the table and discuss how do we work out this entire solution in a more coordinated and in a synergized manner or a synchronized manner. Okay, that is one aspect to it. Second, although there are some welcome steps which has been taken since last 2-3 years time when this pandemic was going on, there was a activity which was going on as merging of erstwhile National Council of Vocational Training and National Skill Development Agency. All these things were merged, and then National Council of Vocational Education and Training has been created. A unified system has been created. Now, this is definitely a welcome step, but where we are lacking is, like, we have also created framework for companies which can work as awarding bodies and companies which can work for as assessment agencies. So there were no formal SOPs or guidelines were available earlier. Now these things are also being formalized. Where we are lacking today is that what kind of companies should come into training space. Okay, what should be their criteria? What should be the SOP for them? That is one. Then, how do we increase the participation of the industry? Because ultimately, whoever we are developing as a skilled guy or a semi skilled guy, they have to go and work in an industry. So, there we have to see what exactly industry needs, which skills they are looking into it, and how they want their future people to work and perform in a job when they land up after their training program. So all these things needs to be stitched together, which I think government has to do. One. Second is consolidation of all different schemes which governments are running. Everybody has, there are multiple departments and they have their different schemes which are running. We need to converge them, put all our resources in a way so that we may create a ecosystem where the number of people whom we are training are less, but the quality of training goes up.
Yeah, I think we disintegrated ecosystem that we call is still the biggest challenge. Yeah. I think from entrepreneurship point of view also, so COVID has actually shown us that skilling and jobs and employment cannot be the sole answer for this. Majority of the population will still do entrepreneurship because we saw reverse migration, etc., in all the
During
states.
last pandemic.
Yeah, so people do want to work locally. They are not happy to migrate. I mean, a certain segment will always remain, but majority will move to entrepreneurship, and rural entrepreneurship for that sense will remain significant always, because obviously there are not that much jobs. So for entrepreneurship, I think again it faces the same disintegrated ecosystem like an issue. And what else do you think entrepreneurship?
See, in entrepreneurship, I'll tell you there are a couple of very nice examples which are being implemented over a period of time. Like for example, state of Orissa, they have initiated one nano entrepreneurship program, wherein what they are doing is they are picking up people from rural hinterlands, who are young, who are aspirational, and they want to do something locally. And they are not picking up like entrepreneurship ventures in fintech or maybe tech based entrepreneurship and all. They are doing very simple kind of entrepreneurship activity. Suppose somebody wants to do a plumbing activity in providing plumbing services for a block or maybe for a tehsil kind of space. So he is learning, he is able to first learn himself the trade skills which is required. Then how do I create a model in which I can employ maybe around 8-10 people maximum, and create an ecosystem where they are being given some loan, which is basically a grant in aid or maybe kind of money which they can return back over a period of time, which is interest free. And they are being encouraged to develop their model in a very small manner and then scale it up to a level which is also not unviable. And having said that, we have to create a balance between how many people who will be going for jobs, how many people who can go for entrepreneurship, because everybody cannot become entrepreneur, because there's a difference between entrepreneurship and a self-employment opportunity.
Exactly.
So we have to also look into aspect of
The
from
gig
that aspect
economy
also.
that is coming.
Yes. So there we have to look into all these things. Ki self-employment opportunities can be provided, entrepreneurship micro or maybe nano entrepreneurship can be provided, and obviously skills for jobs. All these three aspects, when they work in coordination, I think will create a ecosystem where people will thrive, youth will thrive. Now, what we need to also understand that we need to recognize skilling as a sector, which is a formal sector. Somehow we are not able to recognize that. So that is what is happening is good trainers needs to be come into this particular sector and work, because they can see their career, which is more stable. See, policy wise, we have maybe created policies, but somewhere we have lacked consistency. Okay, so we have to develop that consistency and give that confidence in the market that okay, if you start a career in skilling, I'm talking from the perspective of organizations which are involved in skilling, they have to provide a platform to people who are coming as trainers, people who are coming as counselors, people who are coming as managers. They provide that consistency, that confidence, so that they stay in that and flourish in that sector. So we have to recognize this sector as a formal sector, one. Second is create an ecosystem where people can come and thrive. People who are trained, trainers, managers, workers in skilling sector, and so that they can go and in turn become that change agent, which can bring that changes on the ground. One aspect which I would like to quickly also tell, that somewhere we are not able to match the aspiration of the youth with the job roles which we are providing in the right way.
I think once the industry comes as an actor and co-curates that, this problem will be solved, because industry knows best what is required.
I'm touching upon a different aspect on this. See, somewhere these youth also doesn't know, they are having a little bit of challenge in terms of confusion or overload of information. So suppose today I get into become, into an institute to become an electrician, but after 15 days, 10 days, I feel that, I'm not fit for this job. And then there's a dropout within the training program. There is a dropout during assessment, or there is a dropout post assessment. Now, how do we cater to this issue? First, during the counseling stage,
Yeah.
if we inform them what is involved in a particular job role, what kind of challenges are there, what kind of opportunities are available. So there we need to spend more time while in the beginning itself to make them aware of what kind of sector job role they are choosing, what kind of sector that is, what kind of opportunities and what kind of career they can, what kind of career path they can look
Correct.
forward to.
Correct.
That is very important.
Yeah.
Because that will ensure that these people get into the system and come out happily and contribute to the industry.
It will provide that longevity to that.
Yes. I think with that, we conclude that, to make it more aspirational, we have to, all the players have to come together and work in a very concerted and in a synchronized manner. We have a long way to go.
Correct.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.